All right, I'm going to talk to you specifically to the parents about how I raise my kids, which I have christened the Rorschach method. That's not the Swiss psychologist, that's not his ink blots, that is this guy, Rorschach, an anti-hero from the acclaimed 1986 graphic novel Watchmen. There was also a movie in 2009, which you may have seen. He's kind of a superhero, except he mostly just hits people a lot, and doesn't really have any compunctions about doing that. That might seem a strange way to parent your kids, but just bear with me. There's a reason for that. There is a classic scene in Watchmen where this guy, his real name is Kovacs, he's in jail, he's getting hassled by a big guy because you're a superhero kind of, and so obviously he's about to get shivved. So he grabs this thing of boiling oil and chucks it into the guy's face, and the classic line, as he's being dragged away, he says, none of you understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. And that is the Rorschach method of parenting. So, just so we're clear, when I talk about this, this is who I'm talking about. I don't encourage throwing oil on them. I do, however, encourage making sure that you and your children both understand that they are entering into your life, not the other way around. There needs to be that level of understanding between you and your kids in a lot of different areas. Sleep is a big one. Your sleep, their naps, your sleep-related activities, shall we say. Don't get run by your child's nap schedule. This was a big one for us, right? Make sure your children are flexible enough that they aren't going to explode if things aren't perfect every single day. Feed your kids what you're eating. This is specifically for us. When we're eating food, our kids eat that food. Sometimes it works well, sometimes less well, but in general, that's how it works. Feed your kids sushi. Feed them Vietnamese food. That's what Vietnamese kids eat, so you know that it works. Recreation is another one. You are not your child's personal playmate, no any more than you're their personal cook. Now, you still feed them, and you still play with them, but it is on your terms more than theirs. They also need to make room for your recreational activities just as much as the other way around. Media is a big one, especially in this day and age where we're really kind of in uncharted territory. You can see my kids right now. We end up somewhere in the middle on the screen time debate, but the main thing is it's not run by them. It's also not run by artificial structures that we try to set up that don't end up working. Worship is another big one. It's more of an issue as kids get older than ours are, but the same principle is true, right? If coming together to worship is important, then your kids live their lives around that rather than the other way around. Now, some caveats here. This is not about shaming anybody for doing things slightly differently. This is specifically an anti-shame method, so don't feel bad if you're not doing things the way I just described it. That leads me to caveat number 2, which is these are not rules so much as guidelines, right? Especially, let's say, if you have a child with special needs, the way you live that out is going to be completely different than the way somebody else is going to. I think that these are guidelines anyone can learn from, but they're going to look very, very different in different situations. Caveat number 3, this is not a marriage method. This would be a terrible marriage method. I'd call my marriage method something more like the Justice League method or something, but yeah, don't tell your spouse that they're trapped in here with you. That's bad idea. Don't do that. Now, you may be thinking that, no, this is just an excuse to be selfish. Well, I'm going to give you 5 reasons the Rorschach method of parenting isn't just an excuse to be selfish and is, in fact, good for your kids. And we're going to start right back where we just left off with the question of marriage. Because marriage, a healthy marriage, is the most valuable thing that you can give your kids. So if your kids have to live their life around your marriage, that's a good thing, because if that is solid and stable, so much research, if you needed it, I don't think we do, but there is plenty of research that says that that's the case. Outside of even the marriage, you as a parent being healthy, well-adjusted, that's pretty important too. The whole principle of, the oxygen on yourself before your kids. You need to be healthy before you take care of them. So self-care is kind of the buzzword these days. Another thing, if you live your real life like you would normally live it, fitting a child into it, they're going to understand what real life looks like better than one that is warped to view them. And that's not just that maybe they'll grow up self-centered, that could be a piece of it, but just they're going to understand real life better. Partly because, number 4, they will learn to cope. If they can cope with you, as Gideon's doing in this picture, then they're going to be able to cope with other things better as life throws things at them. Number 5, and this, for me at least, doing it this way is kind of a reaction against this concept that kids need these rigid structures in naps and all this schedules and all this stuff. That's not as important. The more important thing is that they know that somebody who loves them is in control. And so if you love them, unlike maybe this guy did his people, then that is going to make the Rorschach method of parenting work. Thank you.